So one of the things we've been lucky enough to do together is some work on Columbia's Women in Leadership class. And
Yes.
Jennefer was just one of our key speakers this past week, in fact.
Yeah.
And at the time you talked about becoming a thought leader and what's necessary to do that and why it matters. And I thought maybe it might be interesting for our participants to hear a little bit of, how do you define thought leadership, and then what are some of the things that go into it?
Mm-hmm. Well, being a thought leader, that has become in vogue within the past 5 to 10 years. When I first started out, nobody thought about being a thought leader, but it's almost become like an element on which to hang your hat and to differentiate yourself. And anybody can say that they are a thought leader, but who is genuinely a person who is going to influence and be followed by people? So basically what a thought leader is somebody who can, create a following, whose thoughts are recognized and listened to, who is on a platform where others look up to him and her for that area of expertise. And what I also said during the presentation is that you have to have an element of boldness. You just can't say, I'm a thought leader, and stand against the wall and let the world walk by. You have to now, especially in this landscape, with the recent issues, not issues, that's a weak word, but with what has happened with Black Lives Matter, with the murder of George Floyd, there has been a sudden awakening in the United States, and CEOs, and this is in many newspapers such as the Wall Street Journal, that have said that they are now required to walk the talk. You can post all those black squares. You can say we are for Black Lives Matter, but those who want to be a thought leader are now being demanded by their staff, by their external audiences, to come up to the plate and not just say they are, but what are their actions? What are they doing? And so we have to take on that mantle if we want to be seriously thought of as a thought leader. And there are times, there's this increased sensitivity in this era, in this time, where there may be some blowback. One of the things I talked about was the former CEO of PepsiCo. And she noted in a conference that she made some comments that were considered critical, interpreted critical of then President-elect Trump. And PepsiCo people called upon a boycott of PepsiCo. And so there was a crisis. You are not going to please everyone all the time. But if you go out and say, I want to be a thought leader, you are going to have to be well aware of the consequences of your actions, what you say, what you do, because it may damage your business, it may cause loss of revenue, it may cause some of your staff to leave. So don't just say it, don't just think it, but think about, can you sustain it? Now, I'm not saying you're going to run away. As I said, I am an advocate for women in the workplace. And recently with AOC, with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, when she was confronted in the hallway by another representative who called her, a few bad words, and she spoke about it. And so what I did was I took a key passage from what she said, and I included a photograph of her on my Twitter page. Now, in my Twitter bio, I put down that I'm hashtag advocate for women. And I put this in specifically to support it and to say this is incorrect behavior. And within a day, I got over 3,000 views, and my footprint expanded and more people followed me. So that is all the elements of a thought leader. When you are willing to take a step outside of the line, being aware of the consequences. Now, again, I may be in a unique position because I work for me. And as I said, I'm not going to turn around and say, Jennefer, you're fired. It's not going to happen. Okay? I'm stuck with me. So if you're an individual within a company, if you have to answer to a board or if you have to answer to a CEO, one of the things that I said to the women who were part of this cohort that you were leading is, you can protect yourself. You can say, thoughts are my own. Many of us, work for companies with which we hold their same values and morals. One of my former bosses, she told me this story when she was looking for a job just out of college, and she was at her wit's end. She wasn't getting hired. And this big tobacco company said, okay, we'll hire you. Now remember, she was running out of money. She was just out of college. She was in New York from the South. She had bills coming in. She could not do it. She goes, I just could not work for a company that produced tobacco. And so she held firm and she eventually got a job. So what I'm assuming is that many of us are working for companies that hold our moral center. And if you are working for a company that doesn't, that has been happening where it has to be an atmosphere where dissenting voices are heard. And you can do that respectfully. You can do it in a manner that won't agitate, but you can speak out. So right now, I saw a quote that you can't be silent. Silence is equal to oppression. And right now, in the times that we're living in, it is incumbent upon us to say something of what we believe in. And being a thought leader, if you really want to be a thought leader, and I said it's a heavy burden to carry, you have to be willing to go out there. And as the wonderful John Lewis said, make some good trouble.